Welcome to the Quality Rated webinar series, Nurturing Relationships. In this episode, we will share how adult relationships with children impact children's development, behavior, and readiness to learn. We will define the importance of nurturing relationships, identify and discuss how interactions impact relationships, label and describe critical verbal and nonverbal types of communication, identify strategies for building positive relationships with children ages birth through 12. The teacher-child relationship is a foundational component of child development. Having strong, positive relationships with adults is critical for young children's social-emotional development and sets the stage for all future learning. When children feel cared for and know they can trust and rely on their teacher, they are able to feel safe to communicate their needs and ask questions. When adults and children are connected through a strong relationship, they are more likely to develop and maintain positive interactions and foster trust, which helps children feel safe to ask questions and let adults know what their needs are. When children feel safe and their needs are met, they are able to more freely explore, play, and learn. Positive teacher-child relationships also increase child engagement during play and interactions, because when the child enjoys being with the teacher, there are more positive teacher-child interactions and decreased frequency of child disruptive behaviors. Nurturing relationships with teachers also help children feel safe enough to initiate and respond to interactions with other adults and with peers, which gives them the foundation needed to develop their first friendships. Let's listen to Jeffrey Trawick Smith's brief explanation of the importance of relationships in early childhood before exploring how attachments are formed and relationships are built.
Of course, the most important attachment is between children and their families. But a nice, strong attachment to a child care provider also can have a powerful impact on children's social development and their behavior. One study found that children who became attached to a child care provider for just 1 year, it was just for a year, at age 4, were found to be better adjusted later in life. They were found to have more friends. They were able to interact with peers in a more positive way. Their teachers rated them as better adjusted to school well into the elementary years. So a message here for child care providers is that there's a lasting benefit for forming a good, positive, strong bond with children in child care.
Nurturing relationships are built through responsive and supportive caregiving that meets children's needs for safety, affection, and validation. To get started, begin with these essential components that apply to all age groups. Keep children safe and meet their needs. If children feel unsafe or their needs are not met, they will not freely engage in interactions with their teacher or others, explore their classroom, or play with toys and books. Show genuine interest in each individual child. Although group interactions matter, nurturing relationships are primarily built through individual interactions children have with their teachers one-on-one. This makes it important for teachers to spend time with each child individually as often as possible throughout the caregiving day. It must be genuine, though. Children can spot phonies in no time. Positively respond when a child communicates with you through words, gestures, facial expressions, and sounds. All types of verbal and nonverbal communication require a response. If a child smiles, smile back. If a child waves, wave back. If a baby babbles to you, babble to them. If a child asks a question or tells you something, listen and respond. If a child reaches for you, pick them up, hold their hand, or hug them. Ignoring a child is negative and tears down relationships. Ignoring a child tells a child that the teacher doesn't care about them and they cannot trust the teacher to meet their needs. So, a positive response every time a child communicates is essential for building nurturing relationships. Respond to crying in a supportive, personal way. If a child is crying, they are upset and need a teacher to comfort them and help successfully resolve the problem causing the emotional distress. Until the emotional distress is resolved, a child will be unable to engage in other interactions or play, as that is their most pressing need. Use warm, appropriate physical contact. Warm physical contact, such as holding, hugging, patting backs, holding their hands, or sitting with children, can help them feel validated and cared about as individuals. However, take cues from children to know when they are open to warm physical contact and when they are not. Just like with adults, there are moments that are more appropriate than others to engage in warm physical contact. It is only nurturing when children welcome the contact. According to dictionary.com, the word interact means to act in such a way as to have an effect on another. Interactions of all kinds between teachers and children have a monumental impact on children's relationships, learning, and overall development. The type and quality of interactions determine whether the impact will be positive or negative. What are interactions? Interactions are the basis for building relationships. Interactions provide the foundation for teachers and children to learn more about one another and to develop trust and affection for one another. Positive interactions can also help children develop a positive sense of self and help them to build cooperative relationships with peers and adults. They consist of back and forth exchanges between teachers and the children in their care. Often, these back and forth exchanges can develop into conversations that aid in children's learning and development. Teacher-child interactions involve communication. When we think of communication, we often think of spoken words in conversations, but interactions can be verbal and nonverbal. Verbal and nonverbal communication occurs throughout the day with children of all ages. It is important to understand the different types of communication so that you can be aware of how you are sending messages to children and also how children may be trying to communicate with you. Verbal communication can include talking, asking questions, having conversations, and listening and responding to children. Nonverbal communication can include body language, physical affection, eye contact, and facial expressions. Nonverbal communication is sending and receiving wordless cues. We all use nonverbal communication on a daily basis. In fact, according to psychology professor Albert Mehrabian's communication model, 93% of communication is nonverbal, while only 7% is verbal. It includes gestures, facial expressions, and body language. When teachers are aware of nonverbal behaviors, they can increase opportunities to engage children in meaningful interactions that will build nurturing relationships. Nonverbal communication is just as important as verbal communication in the classroom. Nonverbal communication can set the tone of the conversation. It can be used alone or in combination with the words we say to help convey mood and meaning. It helps others interpret the emotion of those around them, and it increases opportunities for engagement. Deliberate use of nonverbal communication builds trust that is necessary for building relationships with children. If children do not trust their caregivers, they will develop negative relationships with them instead of positive relationships. It's important to be aware of the different types of nonverbal communication and the impact they have on the messages we send, as well as knowing the messages that children in our care are trying to communicate. Infants and toddlers may use gestures when they do not yet have the words to communicate what they want to say. A preschooler may cross their arms and frown when they are upset after a disagreement with a friend. Conversations are an important part of building nurturing relationships, but what exactly is a conversation? A conversation includes some talking between a teacher and child or a small group of children, with one listening and the other communicating either verbally or non-verbally. It involves a back and forth exchange with both the teacher and child participating. Conversations have a common topic with mutual interest from the teacher and child. For less verbal children, the conversation may be shorter and include responses from the child in gestures or sign language. Babble conversations with less verbal children are still conversations that promote healthy development and language skills. Conversations are not teachers asking children rote questions that require 1 or 2 word answers, quizzing children to identify colors, shapes, etc., or questioning or speaking to a large group of children, which results in the children responding as a group. Why are conversations such an important part of our interactions with children? Conversations are one of the ongoing daily methods for helping children get to know their caregiver and understand how the caregiver feels about them. When conversations consistently show the child that their teacher cares for them and is genuinely interested in them, relationships flourish. Children form emotional attachments. Conversations help children increase their spoken and receptive language skills. Conversations increase social skills, increase vocabulary, promote early literacy skills, and increase cognitive skills. A key component to forming, building, and maintaining nurturing relationships is prioritizing individual interactions. Have conversations with individual children during personal care routines. For nonverbal infants, this may include describing the actions you are taking to help the infant with the routine. For verbal children, conversation topics may include a wide range of topics related or unrelated to the routine. Ask open-ended questions about their play and what they are interested in. Let the child's mood, actions, and interests lead the individual interaction. During arrivals and departures, talk with children individually about their day or night. Greeting children warmly upon arrival sets the tone for the interactions to follow and is a genuine, simple, effective way for a teacher to show a child that they are glad to see them. Talk with children about exciting events in their lives. Relationships are strengthened when children feel teachers are invested and interested in their lives outside of the classroom. Be silly and have fun with children. Children love to laugh, and humor adds to the fun of relationships. Give warm physical affection when appropriate. High fives, pats on the back, and hugs are a great way for teachers to show children that they are loved and appreciated through comfort and affection. Let's take a look at responsive and nurturing caregiving in action in a variety of settings and for diverse ages of children. Pay special attention to the children's reactions to their caregivers and how their teachers respond to the children's cues. This looks different based on ages, activities, and settings, but genuine interest and responsiveness is the ultimate key in building nurturing relationships with children of all ages, as is clearly displayed in this 9-minute video.
Building positive, nurturing relationships with the children in your care is the single most critical thing you can do as an early childhood provider. But why is it so important? And what are some of the things you can do to help foster strong, positive relationships with children?
Relationships are a cornerstone of children's ability to develop those social skills and those self-regulation skills, the ability to understand their own emotions and respond appropriately to the emotions of others.
When they're so young, they only function within a relationship. So when that relationship is a quality, responsive, nurturing relationship, a child then feels that sense of security and trust, and they begin to develop a sense of self-esteem, self-regulation. They begin to manage those emotions. And within that relationship, when they feel safe and secure, then they also feel like, now I can explore. I can venture out. I can discover what's over here. I can try new things. And that exploration is the true piece of learning.
It's important to build relationships with children because they're with you most of the day. The only way they're going to get through is bonding with you and creating that relationship, playing with them, just spending that time with them.
Children really need to feel connected to the people around them. They have to feel understood. One of the questions I pose to caregivers and teachers is, what are your essential messages that you want to be giving to kids? Why are you a teacher in the first place? There are teachers who will say, I want children to feel safe in my classroom. I want children to feel loved. How do the children know it? Well, I greet every single kid in the morning. I am affectionate with kids. I'm sensitive to when they need some encouragement.
What makes you think she will be so happy? I can tell you're really happy making it for her too.
Yeah, those are all very concrete ways to get across your message. And you're communicating to children with every piece of how you're reacting to them and acting with them.
I definitely think that we always make sure the children know that we're there for them, always acknowledging their actions, their words, paying attention, letting them know that we want to listen to them.
I talk to them all the time, sing to them. When they're not feeling good, I hold them, make them feel comfortable. When they're teething, they're feeling sad, and just nurture them all the time, like they're my own kids. And that's how it feels sometimes anyways.
So I really try to get to know my students in the first month of school. So I know all of my students' brothers and sister names and their pets and all of their interests, and they really respect me for that.
Responsive caregiving really is responding to the individual needs of each child, thinking about each child as an individual developing on their own trajectory at their own rate, and you responding to them as they develop.
You did it! You cut it in half!
When we're looking at infants, we're looking at responding to their cues, how promptly and how appropriately we're responding to those cues. You can see how are they responding when you look at them, or you stick out your tongue, your face, your tone of voice, and you're singing a song. You're being playful and show different sorts of feelings and facial expressions to a baby. So all of those are those positive interactions that happen during the daily routine. When you're feeding them, when you're diapering them, just really paying attention to, I'm not feeding them, this is just a task, but thinking about the quality of that relationship and how you're developing that bond with that child and that emotional bond then becomes a very strong relationship, and that's how it develops a secure attachment.
Trust and attachment is a large part of early infancy. You really need to know the child, and that may take some time. It may take going over to them 4 or 5 times and they're not really responding, and then sitting back and saying, well, let's try a different strategy.
In preschool, how do you become responsive if you're setting up this curriculum?
We are going to help
If you have that every child must sit down and cut today with scissors because you're trying to develop their fine motor skills, you're really not paying attention to or responding to the needs of that child. So it's about really finding that balance of developing all of the skills that you want to see for them to be ready for school, but really responding to what it is they really like.
Each day I have a plan with what I'm going to do, but sometimes they'll take it in another direction. And you have to be able to step back and watch what they're doing. We always need to let children create and do things and take their own interests. Sometimes there are skills that I want children to work on, and they might not be interested in it. Like I might want them to be writing a letter, and they don't really want to do it at that point. But I know they love sand, so I'll put out a little sand table and they can make little squiggles and circles in the sand, and they're developing that fine motor. You can teach through those materials that children are interested in.
I think you came up with another way to get the water.
There have been so many days where I sit down and I may think that I have the ideal lesson for circle time. And one keyword that you may say in your lesson triggers something else, and they go off on their stories. It's important to foster that love and that desire to talk about that, especially when more than one child really wants to talk about that topic.
And then when you have to go on a boat, you have to have a life jacket on.
You're right. Sounds like you've been on a boat recently. Did you go on a boat recently? Yeah, I thought so.
One particular boy in my class loves board games, and whenever I initiate new board games in the classroom, I'll specifically say, oh, Chase, you're going to be so excited today. We have a new board game. And I can tell that that's what he's going to choose for the day, and it gets him excited. And I think it also shows him that I pay attention to what it is that he's interested in.
Six, you didn't even have to count.
You can capitalize on that opportunity as a responsive caregiver to respond to them within what it is that they find joy in.
Oh, I love that. Be the star.
In the long term, this translates into adult relationships, what they're willing to do as far as exploring new things, thinking about themselves as a lovable person. And it's that quality of the relationship that we're looking at.
Just understanding who they are is very important. They know that I care about them. I think that's one of the most important things a teacher can do.
Children are interested in what they want to do, and we need to encourage them and support it and just channel it.
Now that we've talked about some universal truths for developing nurturing relationships with children of all ages and seen an illustrative video, let's pause for a minute to consider how we break it down further by individual age groups. How can we build further upon those foundational practices to customize relationship building with children of each age group? To get us started, think about an infant class, toddler class, and a preschool class in your program. What about relationships looks the same in those classes? What looks different? Those aspects that look the same are the foundational practices that span all age groups and build positive relationships with all ages of people. The differences that come to mind are the ways we customize relationships based on differing needs of children of different ages. As caregivers to young infants, 0 to 5 months, it is important to bond with them. This fosters trust and security. We can bond with young infants by meeting their basic needs quickly and in a supportive manner. Identifying and responding appropriately to his or her cues, such as hunger, sleepiness, discomfort, etc. Providing physical warmth and touch, such as holding, smiling, and doing finger plays. All of these actions are important because they build trust, help infants develop a sense of security, form an attachment with the caregiver, and begin laying the foundation for future relationships and social skills. Bonding with older infants, 6 to 11 months, is similar to bonding with young infants. However, by this age, some infants may start to babble and use verbal communication. Responding positively to their attempts to communicate and engaging in turn-taking conversations is important and beneficial to older infants because it engages their interpersonal skills, promotes language and cognitive development, and teaches social skills. These actions promote the benefits mentioned for young infants, and they also provide opportunities for infants to practice relationship skills and strengthen their understanding of how to communicate. For instance, by taking turns when speaking. Even if the child can't verbally respond to a question, caregivers can pause as if the child is answering and then respond back to the child. Infants are in the beginning stages of communication with their cries, coos, babbling, and eventually words. What happens if their attempts to communicate are met with no response? The lack of response has effects not only in the moment with the caregiver, but also on the long-term development of the child. When children receive responses to their communication, it helps build their developing brain. What happens when an infant's communication is ignored? When a child is upset or tries to communicate and is ignored, it causes an increase in the release of cortisol, causing stress. Lack of response signals danger to infants and therefore causes a stress response. In the long term, prolonged stress can cause an overactive adrenaline system, which can lead to impulsive or aggressive behavior. It can also cause a child to have damaged trust in adults since the child's attempts to communicate went unaddressed. Prolonged non-response from caregivers can even lead to developmental delays in cognitive and language development. Responsive, individualized care is an essential component of infant development. Much growth and development takes place in the toddler year. Young toddlers are 12 to 17 months, and older toddlers are 18 to 23 months. During this year of development, skills in all domains dramatically change and grow as children transition from infants to twos. To bond with toddlers during this time frame, it's important to tune in to where they are developmentally during this fast-paced year. For example, are they just beginning to walk or zooming all around the room already? Are they saying their first words, or do they have a more extensive vocabulary already? When teachers tune in to these individual stages of development, we can better fine-tune our interactions and relationship building with toddlers because our interactions become more meaningful and personal to their needs and developmental skills, which helps to build a nurturing relationship and foster continued learning. Other toddler-specific bonding tips. Responding positively when they initiate play or communication. Toddlers begin to initiate play and interactions with others more often, and they need the validation of their efforts to continue to feel free to learn, explore, try, and initiate new interactions. Consistent, positive responses will help a toddler feel comfortable and build positive relationships with teachers, peers, and others. Have conversations with individual children frequently. Look for opportunities to talk with them one-on-one throughout the day. Even nonverbal children can have back-and-forth conversations through sounds, gestures, facial expressions, play, and games, and these conversations help to foster more language, cognitive, and social skills. Using genuine and positive body language and facial expressions. Toddlers are learning to identify emotions, and they identify them predominantly based on facial expressions since their language skills are still emerging. Inviting them to sit with you and to give and receive hugs. Knowing they are welcome to a teacher's lap or to snuggle beside a teacher is a comfort that helps to build nurturing relationships by affirming toddlers' needs for physical touch, acceptance, and affection. 2-year-olds are becoming much more independent. They are not yet developmentally preschoolers, but they are much more advanced than toddlers in all developmental domains. Bonding with twos is often fun because they are a delightful mix of independence and need for close relationships. To develop nurturing relationships with twos, we must be able to identify when they need independence and when they want us to stay close. Being able to read that is the key to developing positive teacher-child relationships with twos. To build nurturing relationships with 2-year-olds, support independence. They need the affirmation that teachers think they can do it on their own. That respect and encouragement helps affirm them and supports the positive relationship. Give verbal encouragement and affirmations. Giving specific encouragement and praise for new attempts and achievements goes a long way in helping 2-year-olds know that we believe in them. When they feel affirmed, they have more positive feelings about their teacher and feel safer to continue to explore new things. Use warm physical contact. Warm hugs, high fives, and snuggling are universal nonverbal communications of affection. When 2-year-olds feel cared about, they deepen their own affections and emotions for the person caring for them. Smile. Use positive facial expressions and body language. As mentioned earlier, 93% of all communication is nonverbal. Are we communicating to 2-year-olds that we support their emerging independence as well as their need to check in with us for emotional support? Have frequent personalized conversations. 2-year-olds can carry on meaningful back and forth conversations, and these conversations help children and caregivers better get to know one another. Talk with them about anything and everything that is going on in their life. Start with what they are interested in, what they find fun, the play they are engaged in, and what is going on in their lives. These personal conversations will again build responsive and genuine relationships with their caregivers that will support the unique needs and emerging skills of 2-year-olds. Play with them. Having fun together increases and builds relationships in an informal and fun way, which helps a child see a teacher in a positive light and look forward to spending time with the teacher. During the preschool years, children are good communicators. They are now using their solid understanding of conversations, language, social skills, and emotion recognition to strengthen their bond with others to develop preferred friendships, understanding of right and wrong, ability to control and express emotions in safe ways, and use emerging reasoning skills. The safest way they can practice and hone these skills is through secure, nurturing relationships with adults who they love and trust. Preschoolers need teachers to relate to them as communicators and to affirm and respect them by talking to them frequently throughout the day. These conversations are opportunities to talk about their feelings, interests, and ideas, and doing so in a positive manner affirms who they are and helps them develop a responsive and supporting relationship with their teacher based on mutual understanding. Communication is the key to preschool relationships. A preschooler's relationship with their teacher is often initially built upon assumptions from past experiences with caregivers. So, preschoolers that have already experienced caregivers that are not interested in them or who do not talk to them individually will require more effort and intentionality from teachers to develop a positive bond and relationship. It can seem like a bumpy or curvy road at times, but bonding with preschoolers is about following their lead and tuning into what interests and excites them. Here are some tips to navigate that road. Get their input. Ask their opinion. Find out their thoughts and preferences to learn more about who they are. This helps teachers understand individual children, and understanding one another supports positive relationship building. Follow their interests. Children grow to love and admire teachers that care about what they care about. Supporting preschoolers to follow their interests lets the children know teachers care about them as individuals and that it isn't dependent on their behavior. Engage in pretend play and let them direct. Allowing preschoolers to direct play affirms we respect them and their ability to make decisions. Genuine affirmations help build positive relationships. Provide opportunities to help teachers and peers. Opportunities to help and lend a hand to a teacher shows preschoolers the teacher believes in their abilities to be of help. Opportunities to help peers shows preschoolers how our interactions with others and kindness we show boosts our friendships with others. Listen attentively. Nothing communicates importance and value more than giving your undivided attention. When we listen attentively to children and give them our attention, we show them respect and model important communication techniques that positively bolster relationships. Speak to them kindly and respectfully. Preschoolers are quick to pick up on tone more than words spoken. So, even if a teacher uses kind words in an unkind way, the preschooler will interpret that interaction negatively based on tone. Given how perceptive they are to tone, it is vitally important that our interactions with preschoolers be kind and respectful to communicate our caring. Children that do not feel respected, who are treated unkindly, or who think their teachers do not care, have negative teacher-child relationships, which also negatively impacts their ability to freely learn, communicate, play, and explore. Maintain eye contact. Eye contact communicates we value the conversation and the person we are having it with. It also communicates that they have our full attention. Ask preschoolers open-ended questions to learn about their ideas, especially during free play and routines. The best way to get to know another person is to talk to them. Asking open-ended questions that require more thought than one-word answers start conversations to help teachers do that. Open-ended questions often start with how, why, what do you think, what if, I wonder, or tell me more about that, and preschoolers are able to construct lengthy and insightful responses when teachers take time to foster these interactions. Smile. Give high fives, fist bumps. Celebrate with them. When a person celebrates your joys and successes with you, it communicates caring and boosts relationships. Engage in cooperative play with them. Preschoolers learn through play. Play is their work at this age, and they give it great importance in their lives, constructing more elaborate play than at any previous stage of development. Teachers that engage in cooperative play with preschoolers have opportunities to deepen and strengthen relationships with children, as well as expand and customize learning. Preschoolers enjoy play and feel emotionally supported when teachers think they are important enough to play and engage with them. Laugh, be silly, and have fun. We all like people better when we have fun with them. Taking time to laugh, be silly, and have fun will boost feelings of both the teacher and the preschooler for one another. When interacting with school-age children, it's important to be respectful. Consider your body language, tone, and response. Approach school-age children with a warm, supportive tone. This includes smiling and using a cheerful or relaxed voice. When we communicate that we are happy to see school-agers and respect them as individuals, they are more open to responsive relationships with their teacher. Listen to school-agers attentively and treat them fairly, not showing discrimination or favoritism. School-agers have unfortunately had experience already with discrimination and favoritism. When they experience this, they recognize it immediately and internalize that the teacher that is treating them this way does not care about them or like them. Allow autonomy. School-agers are older and have the capability of selecting and initiating activities, and it's critical that we support their autonomy. When we do not support their autonomy, school-agers interpret that as a teacher doesn't care about them personally, only supervising the group. Supporting autonomy also helps create mutual respect and trust. Involve school-age children in decision-making, planning, and problem-solving. They are also capable of helping to develop rules and interpreting the rules. Supporting their independence daily is important too. This can be done by involving them in choosing, planning, and setting up activities each day. Provide authentic leadership responsibilities to help children develop cognitive skills. When having conversations with school-age children, give them different ways to respond. Use open-ended questions that the children need to think about in order to answer, such as why, how, and what if. School-age children have a wide vocabulary, so ask questions that will spark more complex answers and initiate turn-taking conversations and give you deeper glimpses into their personalities, ideas, feelings, and interests. Use the information learned to personalize future interactions with that child to continue building a positive and supportive teacher-child relationship. As you can see from all we've discussed, nurturing relationships are the heart and foundation of all learning for children of all ages. Children need safe, secure, responsive, and positive relationships with their caregivers to facilitate healthy development in all developmental domains and to help children feel safe enough to explore and learn about the world around them. When we take time to intentionally cultivate positive individual relationships with each child in our class, we are opening the gateway to healthy development and learning that will last a lifetime. Please visit the Quality Rated website to find additional webinars in this series. Thank you for joining us today.